Hello, everybody out there on the internet. I cannot see your comments, but I will check them as we're going through. And when we get to the questions portion, I'll have somebody read them so you guys feel like you're here with us. I'm really excited to be here in York. I used to live here, and it is honestly, and people from York always laugh when I say this, but it is my favorite city to visit in the United States. It has great, see, they're laughing now. It has such good energy, and this shop has the best energy in the whole county. It's Symmetry Holistic Collective is such an incredible place to be. So I'm really, really blessed to be here. I am grateful for all of you watching and for my guests here in this room. So we still have a few RSVPs who have not arrived, but we'll get started. So if you hear shuffling coming through, then that's just more people coming to sit. So don't worry about it. And there's a worksheet I'm using, and I'm going to try to link it in the description after the talk, so you can do this at home. It's a bit of an excerpt from my course with Cerridwen's Grove, Manifesting a Spiritual Life. So with that course, you get a 180-page full-color workbook with reflective exercises, journal prompts, activities to do. So there's a lot of things that I pulled from to make this short worksheet, but it's a little excerpt, so I hope you'll enjoy that. Hello. Okay. So when they come in, can you give them a worksheet, please? Okay, thank you. All right. So who am I? I'm Elyse Welles, and I co-host the Magick Kitchen podcast with Leandra Witchwood. I also run Seeking Numina on YouTube, and I'm also a writer, so I do some poetry, and I finished my first novel and my first nonfiction book this year, which are publication dates are yet to be released. So I kind of do a lot of stuff. I'm also a tour guide in Greece and a spiritual coach online. So a lot of it comes from sort of this journey I'm on to manifest my own spiritual life, and that's where I got the idea for this course. About a year ago, I uprooted my life and my husband's life, and we decided to move to Greece. And it wasn't for any huge, crazy, dramatic reason. I had an incredible support system, which I still have where I lived before. I lived in Baltimore for 4 years, and then before that in York and Lancaster. And I had a good job. I had everything that you could want on paper, but I wasn't fulfilled every moment of every day. And I said, why shouldn't I be? Why should I be waiting for a weekend? Why should I be waiting for the liminal moments that come and go? And, and even when those happened, I would find myself thinking, what's going to happen next? When will I have this again? And I didn't want to live that way anymore. So I quit my job. I got rid of almost everything I owned, and we moved to Greece. And we've really loved it. It's been eye-opening to kind of discard the materialism and the things that you thought you really needed and looked forward to buying even. And, you started to experience the moment, and staying present was a huge part of, and is a huge part of my course. It's a huge part of my journey in realizing that's really it. That's what a spiritual life is. And when I was talking to the ladies here at Symmetry the other day, I was saying how magic isn't about what we can do, it's about what we can notice. And that's really it. It's about looking for the things that we can do to notice things more, to stay present more, and to be more fully aware and available for the things that we want to do, instead of doing what we think we have to do first, and only then fitting into that time left the things that we think maybe we would like to do. So when we talk about a spiritual life, a lot of people conflate that with religion and faith and following a higher calling to a higher power. But what it really is intentional living. It's taking the time every day to know why you're doing what you're doing, and it's taking the initiative to make that your day. Like, what am I going to do today? Why am I doing it? Is it because I want to? And it's really obvious, but at the same time kind of profound, because we really a lot of times want to say well, I have to do what I have to do. But that's not really it. So when we start paring away the layers of these things that we think we have to be doing, we can find ourselves a little bit more available and more present and enjoying the here and now and feeling in control of that here and now. Sorry, we got some people coming in to sit. Yeah, wherever you would like. Yep, we got a worksheet there. All right, so when we talk about feeling present, and, that's great, but what can that do for us? That's the next, part of living a spiritual life, is thinking about, all right, well, what's next? Why would sure, I'm present, but is this something I want to be present in? So it's the changes that we need to make, the reflective practices that we can build to help us, build the life that we want to build the spiritual life that we feel and that we know that we deserve. So when we're present, some of the benefits that can come from that, from having this deeper feeling of enjoyment, is contentment. I don't like to say happiness, because happiness is like that, you're watching a comedy movie and like the one joke really makes you laugh, but overall you leave with the impression like, oh, it was a good movie, it was fine. That's happiness. It's fleeting. It's, that one moment a bird flies really close to you and you're like, wow, look at that bird, and then it's gone. But the whole hike, not just the moment you saw the bird, you were content. So contentment is a little bit more of the goal, I think, in life. When we're feeling present, we're aware of everything going on for us, so we're more likely to be content in the situation that we're in and the life that we're living. So we find ourselves more content. We also find ourselves more self-confident. We're more able to feel what we know we're feeling. Sometimes when we're doing the things we think we have to do, when we're going through the motions, we're not really concerned if we're happy or sad or angry or, really hungry. We might not even notice we're hungry, right? Because we're just doing it. Like, we think that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to do. So there's a lot of self-confidence that comes with realizing, okay, I'm content, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm feeling doing it. And then we start to feel more empowered, we feel more confident, because we're able to have these fallback practices. So some of the spiritual things we can do is don't go right into your day. Some of these big changes that we have to make, they're big changes. Like, I didn't just decide to leave. Like, I finished out the contract on my job. I, dealt with all my stuff, sold things, gave things away. I, said all my goodbyes. It took me all in all about 11 months to actually move. But that was what I was moving towards, and I was able to enjoy those 11 months a lot more because I was present in them. I was doing the most I could. I knew that this was a phase that's ending. And when you're in those in-between phases, those in-between times, especially as witches, we always talk about the in-between times. Like, they mean so much more, and they're almost their own, phase of growth. And then it gets you more empowered in the decisions you're making. So don't feel rushed to make these changes. But when we're first starting out, the first thing we can do, no matter what else you don't or do want to change, you can find yourself waking up with intent. So, and this is hard. I was a teacher for 4 years. I am not a morning person. And a lot of books I've read on spirituality and morning rituals and stuff, they're like, well, get up 2 hours before you have to leave the house or go to work. And I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna get up at 3 a.m. Great, awesome, that's doable, right? No, I think that deters a lot of people from actually wanting to do anything like early in the morning when they say like, yeah, you shouldn't start your day right away. That's not really possible for most people. But we can start with 5 to 10 seconds of present shielding. So if you're a witch and you have an altar space, starting your day walking past that altar space, but taking a few seconds to place your hands on the table and really meditate with that. Just take a few deep breaths. That's really all that you need to do. We got some more people coming in. So taking a few seconds in the morning is one of the key things we can do, like really just a few seconds. If you have more time and you want to light a candle, great. If you have time for coffee or tea in the morning at your home, great. Do that at your altar space too. But taking a few seconds is all that you're going to need to really start your day on a better footing. Like I remember when I was teaching, sometimes I wouldn't find myself aware of myself until like halfway through the day when I finally had a minute to go pee or something. And then I was like, oh man, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm really hungry. I didn't drink any water today. And that's no way to push through. We shouldn't push through so much. So when we take those 15 seconds, we're checking in with ourselves. We're breathing deeply, not just these shallow breaths that we learn to take. And that's going to set us in a better headspace. Literally, when we breathe deeply, the oxygen actually goes to our head. So we're actually awakening ourselves further. And then if you have the time, drink a glass of water. That's another good one to start your day with. I'm like a perpetual water advisor.
It's good to have one of those friends around.
Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to be that friend.
Yes.
Buy a water bottle, carry it always. It's true. I was at TJ Maxx and I saw literally it was like this big, like a water bottle, and it was like probably 2 gallons of water. It was absolutely insane. But I was also like, yeah, that's great. Like if you know you're not going to refill it throughout the day, carry that thing, and then you get arms of steel as like a bonus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like do some reps. So that's probably like my favorite first start, and that took me like 2 years to start. Like really, like when you say you're starting a spiritual journey and like, okay, I want to be present. I had a mantra of be present for probably 6 years before I really was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not really staying present. Here, and we got some worksheets behind the computer there. Hi. And there's one more of these. We'll get to the worksheets in a little here, in a few minutes. Oh. See, I was a bad teacher because I didn't say explicitly, okay, kids, don't open your pencils or your worksheets yet. All right, so I'll just give you a couple more tips on a deeply spiritual existence, how to reach that, how to start that, because that's where we're all at, right? Is like, okay, well, how do I start that? It sounds great, but how do I do it? Another big one, but I'm going to try and make it sound small, is to do your best not to avoid doing things. So that sounds antithetical, right? Because I just said only do the things that you want to stay present doing. But there's a big part of us that wants to give ourselves reasons to not do the things that we actually want to do. Like we might tell ourselves throughout the whole workday, like, all right, I'm going to get my work done, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to be able to relax and paint. That's all I want to do is paint. And so you do all the things, and you get to the point, and you're able to paint, and then you say, oh, but I really should call my mom back. Or you say, oh, no, I really should probably, do that assignment for school real quick. So we end up talking ourselves out of the choices that we know we should make. Or it might be that you've always wanted to travel and there's a trip coming up that you really want to go on, and so you say you're going to go, but you don't take any of the steps to do it, and then you find excuses not to, and I didn't even take a good passport photo, so I'm just not even going to submit that. So look for the ways that you're self-sabotaging yourself, that you're kind of talking yourself out of taking the steps towards the joy that you actually want. And you say you want it, and you feel like you want it, but why aren't you chasing it? These are some of the reflective practices we'll get to in the worksheet too. But there's a lot of hesitancy in our ego to experience change. So even though something like our job, which takes so much of our time, could be something that we really dislike, we still might sabotage ourselves out of going to an interview or updating our LinkedIn. Something that might even seem small and would take you 15 minutes, you might just not do because you want to stay comfortable. So a spiritual life is one of contentment, Not happiness, it's fleeting, right? Contentment. But we don't want it to ever just be comfortable. Comfortable does not always equal content. That's not to say your cup of tea when it's raining outside is not comfortable. It's also contentment, right? But there's this ego level of comfort of why change? This is safe, that we need to sometimes examine and decide, is there really a fear here? Is there actually a threat to me? Or is it just different? And the last thing, since I started with the morning activity, I would say the last spiritual practice you can do is something at night. And again, a lot of us are too tired by the end of our day to really, have some elaborate practice. I think people put a lot of pressure on themselves to build an evening ritual, to build something that they have that they always do in this way. And then we don't do it that way one day and we're like, I'm not going to do this anymore. So we do nothing. Don't do that. It's better to layer that, to scaffold that. So if you know that, you're a bath person, you love a bath, try to do a bath once a week. Just once a week. And it doesn't have to be the same day every week either, because that's undue pressure. Maybe you find yourself, putting the kids into bed and they actually stay there and you're like, it's only 7:30, I'm gonna have a bath. And then you have a bath and that's it. That's your ritual. Or maybe you're a reader. Try to make it a goal to read 10 pages. Maybe not every night, but like when you sit down to read, make yourself read for a whole 10 pages. Because that's 10 minutes. Like unless you have, super extraneous circumstances that of course you know better than I do, these are minutes that you probably do have. Think if you're a social media user, you might scroll through 10 TikToks. Well, that's 10 minutes, So, and we don't think about that. So try to read more. Put your book in the bathroom. That's still probably 10 minutes that you'll have to read. Just don't take your phone. Leave the book. Read the book. Leave your phone. So look for things you can do in the evening to wind down. So if you can end your day with mindfulness and start your day with mindfulness, these are going to be like genuinely life-changing things, because you'll start, after a few weeks of this, you'll start to find other ways you can put this in. You might say, well, my lunch break's 45 minutes. I usually only take 20 minutes to eat, so I'm going to do a little bit of writing every day. 5 minutes of writing. Or maybe you write at night, so you decide to read something that you've written the night before when you're on your lunch break. So it's about these mindful activities, these things that you can do that really bring you to a place of present, like just being present. It's so simple, but it's so hard. It's really, really hard. So when we try to give ourselves a little bit more scaffolding to our activities and the changes we want to make, we don't start it all at once, but we say, okay, I'm going to take 10 seconds to put my hand on my altar and take a deep breath where I actually feel my diaphragm go out. That's going to change your life. If you add it to your evening activity right before you go to bed, 15 seconds at your altar doing the same exact thing, that's going to change your life. So the best spiritual practices are often the teensiest, tiniest little things that we don't even realize are going to change. We're like, sure, fine. All right, Elyse said I can do 10 seconds of touching my altar and it's going to change my life. Just try it. Like, you have 10 seconds. I know you have 10 seconds. So just try it out and see. And then see what more your brain starts saying, hey, you know what? Do we have time to do this too? And you might. You actually might. All right. So I think we are on the step for this worksheet. So we have some worksheets back there. And I think we have some pens out and about too. And for those of you watching online, I will put the PDF, thank you, in the description. I think that's technologically possible. If it's not, I will type the questions out, because it's not like diagrams and stuff. It's just fun little questions. Okay. Okay, so we're going to try and move through the 5 senses. And arguably there's like sixth senses, right? Because we've all got that like intuitive sixth sense. But we're going to work with the 5 that we all learn in school. So when I picture myself, I guess this is actually a sixth sense when I think about it, visualizing. I've been a witch too long. I think that that's like literally vision, but you're right, it's visualizing. Okay, so when I picture myself living a spiritually fulfilled life, what does that look like? So what comes to mind first when you're thinking of a spiritual life? And if anybody wants to share what they're thinking? I'd love to hear it. Yes.
Connecting to spirit and nature daily.
Connecting to spirit and nature daily. I love that. And that doesn't have to be a hike in the woods. That can be I'm walking in my car and I look at the sky instead of my feet. And that's it. That's the only change. Yeah, that's good. I love that.
Repeat the question, please.
Yes, any visualizations that you think of when you think of a spiritual life? What does that look like? Like, what's that romantic aesthetic idea of like a spiritual life?
Mine is pulling my oracle cards and being open to receiving messaging.
Oh, pulling oracle cards and being open to receiving messaging. I'm repeating it for the mic.
Yeah.
No.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For me, that would look like a sustained effort of self-improvement, not only for myself, but for the people and the relationships that I want to honor.
Oh, that's good. Sustained level of self-improvement for yourself and the people that you love and want to honor. Is that right? The relationships that you have. Yeah. And that's it too. Like, I think, actually, that's like one of the first chapters of my book I just wrote, is like, how do we take the mundane world that we think of as like this thing we want to escape from, and then the spiritual world that we're almost always reaching for, like we don't really feel like it's something, we have moments where we're like, yes, we're living this, when we're in circle or when we're at our altar or when the candle flares up as we're meditating, but like, how is this going to always, like, how can I blend these two? And I think it's simpler than it feels. Like, if we can put our spiritual selves first, the mundane life kind of wraps around that. You don't have to do it the other way around. You don't have to get the mundane life, to make room for the spiritual. It can go the other way.
I have a clipboard for you, so you're not writing on your knee.
Oh.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, so I'll let y'all finish on your worksheets. Any other ideas about that, like a spiritually fulfilled life? What it could look like?
I said inner peace and just no stress, like not letting stress get to me.
Inner peace and not letting stress get to you. Yeah. Yeah, it rules us, exactly.
I said I picture myself with intentional living, repeating what you said, just and it feels like being in control of my own happiness.
Intentional living that feels like being in control. Yeah.
I need my own happiness. I don't have to control others.
Yes, I love that. Only in your own happiness, not to control others. And that's like, yeah, that's one of the big ones to release, is that need to control others. Because we think of it on like a big scale, like the cosmic scale of like, politicians or Bezos or whatever. But like, even like to say like, oh, my kid has to wear this because that's what they wear for picture day. Or, my mailman leaves the mail next to the mailbox instead of in it. Like when we release that need to control or feel like we need to control it, it's, yeah, it is what it is. Que sera, sera.
Mine is too lengthy, I think, for you to read, but
That's good. Strong visualization is going to be lengthy. I love that. You want to give me an excerpt?
being outdoors, barefoot under a tree, hands in the air. That's part of it.
Being outdoors, barefoot under a tree, hands in the air. Yeah.
Want to read more?
Sure. I want to hear it.
Seeing dragonflies, hearing running water, and birds chirping.
Oh, dragonflies, running water, birds chirping. Yeah. That reminds me of, I think there's a psychology name for this, where we when we go to our happy place in our heads, a lot of people actually have a visualization space that's the same one every time. I have that for meditating. When I need to just meditate, it's never blank, clear your mind. It's always there's this place I was shown in 2014 when I really felt like I was getting good at meditating. And it's the place I go to every time. But yeah, it builds on those layers. You get the birds chirping, and the longer you can maintain meditative state. So what does it feel like? What's a spiritual life feel like to be living?
I'd say it's the healthy balance between challenging yourself and being gentle with yourself.
Oh, that's beautiful. That should be a bumper sticker. The healthy balance of challenging yourself and being gentle with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it feels authentic and liberating.
Authentic and liberating. Yeah. And that peels away those stresses because then we're not focusing on what other people are thinking, or is this what I should be doing? Like the shoulds, woulds, coulds really fade away, and we're like, no, this is just what I am doing, and that's that. Yes.
A deep cleansing breath and restfulness.
A deep cleansing breath and restfulness. Yeah. Yeah, it's like I forget, I don't know if you were here when I was saying it, but when you breathe in deeply, it literally makes you think better because you actually get oxygen to your brain. Like we just are so used to this shallow breathing. It's a small change, but a deep breath is so helpful. Any other feels to spiritual living? Because it is something you get when you're meditating or when you hit that, like there was this TikTok challenge I saw that was like, it was silly, but it was also like, yeah, no, I've seen that happen, where like you're burning an incense stick or a cone of incense and you can focus your energy and it will go straight up. Like a lot of people were saying it's like, that's real witchcraft because you're moving the smoke. Like they took it really far. But it is true that when you're truly still, you're not breathing on your flame, like it'll go straight up, and you can meditate with that and say like, all right, I too am rising, That's one of those moments that when I have that happen, that's one feeling. I don't know what the word for that is, but when smoke behaves, that's a good feeling. Or a candle. There's nothing like really making an invocation and watching a candle flame enlarge. Like, it's amazing. All right, so there's something I talk about in my course that first came up in a Magic Kitchen podcast episode when me and Leandra were talking about how to know who should be in your inner circle, how to set boundaries with those who shouldn't be, and it's called the energy compass. So we all have it. It's free. You don't have to buy one. It's in our soul, and we call it sometimes our gut feeling. But the gut can be a hard thing to say because usually the gut is more like, yeah, this is a no. I don't know why, but this is a no. And sometimes we can take that and take it too seriously, and maybe the no isn't that, this person is toxic or this job is horrible for you, or maybe it's just that the opportunity is bigger than you thought you were ready for. Or maybe you thought that you wanted to go down this specific path, but it's just slightly off that. So you're like, well, no, it's my feeling, my gut is saying that something's off. Off doesn't always mean wrong. So an energy compass, it's almost like a heart meter. It's like if your heart and your third eye, if there was like some stethoscope situation you could do, it's these two parts of you. Like you're looking for how you feel in your heart, where, is my heart racing? Because our heart races when we're scared. It also races when we're in love. So is my heart racing, and what does that feel like? Like, is it in my throat in a fear way, or is my heart just racing in an excitement way? And then is my third eye, is my intuition, is my perception of this person that they are good, that they are bad, or that we just don't know? Because a lot of times we find ourselves in this we don't know. And so we just need to give ourselves more time. And our energy compass is going to always tell us, all right, I'm feeling this way, and why? Always. It's always telling us that. And we often want to shut it down with the first instinctual understanding of, no, this is bad. Like there's something that's, and it could just be your heart racing. Maybe you had a really good date and you had a really bad relationship before, and so your heart's racing, but it was a good date, and you can empirically, decide that with facts, but there's still, you're ready to reject it, not call them back. So use your energy compass instead of your gut and look at how you can direct yourself just by listening to yourself and then taking the time to do so. Because that's a big part of it too, is we feel like we need to react. Especially in our instant gratification culture, we see a news article that everyone else is sharing and we're like, well, I need an opinion on this stat or else I'm not the one who, I don't know anything, or like, just wait. Don't react right away. See what you can understand about it, see what your energy compass tells you, and then decide, really decide if you need to even have an opinion on it, So think about, to kind of calibrate your energy compass, think about 3 to 5 things that you feel totally present when you do them. You don't check your phone for the time. You don't, think about, something super extraneous from you. Your mind doesn't wander in like weird directions. Like you're really focused and enjoying yourself. These are times where your body's responses might be subconscious smiling, humming or singing. They might be times where you, maybe like when you're nervous or something, you bite your nails. These are times you don't do that. Like think about the 3 to 5 things or activities or places you go that's really, you're just present, you're just content. If you're like me, it's when you're not thinking about what your next meal's gonna be, because I love food, and when I get bored, I'm like, what should I have for dinner?
Does that mean we need to do dinner after this?
Or maybe it is eating. Maybe eating's your contentment. I don't know, sometimes.
There is spiritual eating.
We do run the Magick Kitchen podcast.
I do. Mindful.
But it's funny you say that actually, because I feel like when I'm cooking or preparing or making like a syrup or something that even it's just a lot of stirring and makes the whole room smell good, like I almost enjoy making it more than I enjoy eating it. Like how many syrups can you eat? Yeah, we should do that as an episode. I was just talking about that. I was saying how I want to make mint syrup, lavender syrup. I was like, how am I going to eat all these syrups? I just want to make them. You use like a teaspoon at a time. Does anybody want to share anything that makes them feel present? If it's like personal, absolutely, you don't have to, but.
I actually said cooking.
Cooking, yeah. Yeah, it's so much fun. You can put on a good podcast or a song you like or an album.
That was number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
I also say cooking, making desserts.
Yeah. I think cooking is one of the first forms of magic that we're all given the full okay to experience. Like no one's ever like, that's witchcraft. Like they're like, here's how you cook. And you watch an egg like be irreversibly fried, and then you fry it too much and you're like, I can't undo this. And then you get it right for that first time and you're like, that's so good. That's magic. Art. Yeah. That's another one. When you get it right, you're like, oh, that's good. I'm not a good painter, so it's a rare moment for me.
Interestingly enough, for me, work is one
Work.
of those things. Yeah. Because I'm really lucky to do something I'm really passionate about. Singing in the car.
Yeah, singing in the car.
Yeah. Showering.
Yeah,
use that as,
showering.
like, a cleansing ritual where I literally visualize my day washing off of me, and it is so grounding. Water is also a very grounding, just like experience or medium for me. When you were talking about baths, I was like, oh, girl, speak it to me.
Yeah. We're talking about water as a cleansing ritual and able to like physically and mentally like wash your day from your aura and body. Yeah. Yeah, and actually I read somewhere that showering is one of the ways that like almost every person experiences like theta waves naturally, because we're in the stream of water. So it's like having almost like a smaller effect of like a sound bath. And then we're also, it's like a rote memory kind of muscle memory activity. So we're not really thinking about what we're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
You sort of touched on it with the incense smoke, but for me, watching a flame is a really good way to just
Yeah.
focus on that and only that.
Yeah, watching flames, like flame scrying too. Because people always talk about scrying as like looking for one answer. But for me, like scrying is something I like to do when I can't sit still to meditate. Like my eyes are not going to stay closed. Yeah, I love flames. Where I live in Greece, there's a lot of wildfires, so you can't do bonfires but since I've been here, I've gotten to do 2 bonfires. It's been so magical. I want to do one tonight too. I just love them. Anything else that makes us feel really, really present?
I put ritual, particularly like when I'm practicing with my coven and I'm leading ritual. I feel really present. I've never not felt present in that.
leading ritual, being in ritual with covens, yeah. And there's like that cone of power that you can build with a circle of people. We talk about this in the podcast a lot too, how like you never have to be in a coven to be a witch, to have any spirituality. Like you don't have to do it with a group. I think that's one of the more empowering parts of people being interested in spirituality, is that you don't have to do what a crowd says. No matter how small that crowd is, you don't have to do what anyone else is telling you to do. It's your experience. But when you are with like-minded people and you can contribute your energy to a common cause, even if that cause is something as simple as celebrating a season coming in, yeah. And that kind of staying present sticks with me when I'm in that zone. Like I will feel great for like 3 days, at least, sometimes longer. Anything else before we do the opposite?
Looking at the moon.
Looking at the moon. Yes.
I will think of nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the worst part of living in Baltimore City for me, was I couldn't really see her unless it was like 15 minutes at the right time because of how tall the buildings were. Yeah. Countryside forever. I need my flat land and the sea because no one's going to build skyscrapers there. Big fan.
Dinner
Yet, yeah.
with my husband.
Oh, dinner with your
We don't
husband.
have to talk. We can just sit there in silence.
Yeah. Companionable silence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we talk, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's just okay not to. We're like brain dead after.
Yeah. Well, and it's like you can enhance each other's energy just by like acknowledging that about each other. Like, I know you're tired, you know I'm tired. Let's just eat, replenish our energy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, also in line with that, just an embrace with someone. You can just be totally present and just
Aw,
being with
a
someone.
good hug. Yeah. Yeah.
I put love making.
I would say there were children present, but it's your child, so.
Oh, I don't care. He's not even paying attention. And I
For those at home, that was love making. Yeah, yeah. Wrestling in the bed. What are the other euphemisms? So now we're going to think, okay, wait, before we do that, focus on how these things make you feel. You know, if these things resonate with you, if there's things you're thinking about of your own, like, all right, how do they make you feel? Your energy compass right now is 100 out of 100 in the green. Your heart rate's vibing, right? These are the good ones. So then there's the other side, right? What are the things that you do that after you're finished with them, or maybe even while you're doing them, you have no energy? You start yawning. You need to sit down. You notice your sciatica acting up. You can't really take a deep breath. You want to, but you can't. You're hungry, but you can't eat. Or you're not hungry and you should be eating. You know you're supposed to drink that water, but you're like, what's the point? You decide to take a nap even though you got up 4 hours ago. What are the things that sap you of energy? Like really just bring you down.
I said faking being happy or nice.
Oh, yeah. Having to
Like,
fake
when
being
you have
happy
to
and nice.
Feel like you have to be a certain way towards certain people, and I feel like that's in a lot of different jobs in general. Like you're just not, but it's just you have to go on.
Yeah.
So I feel like being on constantly is
Being on constantly.
just very exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a teacher, being the adult in the room. Like always the one that has to, even on the things that are small, that like they're like, can I go to the bathroom? Yes, you can go to the bathroom. You know, like, and that sometimes those things start to pile up and like make you feel tired. You're like, you can go to the bathroom. Yes, you can get another pencil. Sure, you can tie your shoe. Okay. Yeah.
I think just adulting in general, chores that we don't want to do.
Yeah.
That gets to me.
Adulting in general. And this time of year, like mowing the lawn.
I just put physical labor.
Physical labor.
You don't
Yep.
want
Your house ready.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Several
I
people
felt
in this
this
room know what I'm talking about right now.
Mm-hmm. It's all paying off though. It's
Oh,
really, yeah.
Margaret, who's watching online, says negative people.
negative people.
Did you call in? That's awesome.
They're on the, yeah, I can't see them here because it's so far, but there's
people
like,
are phoning in.
that's how old we are that we're like, did they call?
So this is one that I specifically get. Like, as a counselor, people think that they can just come to me for advice for free. So just like hit me up, like, hey, I have this psychological problem. Can you please give me advice? And that drains the crap out of me.
Yeah, when people come to you for advice, and I would say in your career field, like this probably happens to people all the time. Like I've had people before come to me and they knew I read tarot. I used to read tarot more as like a job, and they would be like, "Can you just do this reading for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for $10." Because it's never just like real quick, can you? It's always some big, long, like therapy session. Yeah.
And I think it's like, it's particularly, and this happened to me today, it's never like, hey, how are you doing? Like, let me check in with you. It's always like, I need this from you. Give it to me. Like, that drains me. You know?
Yeah, and that's like the law of energy exchange. Like, a lot of people will say in witchcraft, like, oh, you shouldn't charge for your services, or you shouldn't charge for your time. Well, what am I getting back then? You know, maybe you don't want to charge money, but you want to trade for goods, or you want to trade for other advice. Like, you know, maybe I am a social media marketer and you need tarot readings. That can be something we trade. Like, it has to be an exchange, though. Like, we can't just expect expertise from people without some kind of exchange.
I've also experienced the same thing, like with art and just with other skills that I have, that people come up to me and like, oh, can you draw my dog? It's like, well,
Yeah.
My
The art
cousin's an
exchange.
artist.
Can you draw for me? Yeah.
Can you do pieces in my nursery? Can you do this? Can you do that?
A nursery? That's like a commission. That's
How much
like,
are you paying?
yeah. Here's my card, here's my rates. Yeah.
It takes tens of hours of time.
or when they like have you do 5 different drafts because they don't like any of them, and then they cancel the project.
Oh my
Or
gosh.
people used to ask me all the time, like, oh, you play guitar, can you teach me? Like, do you know how long it would take me to teach you to play the guitar? Like,
Teach you how to play an instrument?
I
Yeah.
think people really undervalue like skills.
Yeah.
And like we are more likely to go to Amazon than we are to just go to the farmer's market, or Whole Foods versus farmer's market or whatever. So
Yeah.
I think we live in a society that really just doesn't value people that are actually very talented.
Yeah. Talking about the devaluation of skill and like the small business model. I don't know which shop it is, but one of the shops out here says, friends don't let friends shop at chain stores.
Yeah.
I love that. I saw that walking up. I was like, that's true. Yeah, well, and then that's a whole nother conversation, how we're entrenched in, like, sometimes you have to go to the big guy, but
Too much
Yeah.
social media. sometimes.
yeah, social media, that's a huge drain on our energy. Yeah. Yeah, and it's hard because with any online business or, if you have any presence online, like if you don't post every day, like if you miss one day, your engagement drops by 50%.
Yeah.
One day. And I don't think that's a fault on the users. That's not your followers' fault. It's the algorithm's fault for saying that you are now banned, essentially, from getting new notices. Yeah. Yeah. So when we look at these things and we feel our energy compass, when we think about what we feel like after adulting for too long, or that person just hit us up for advice for the 1,000th time without asking how you are, pay attention to how that makes you feel. Maybe your cheeks get hot, or your ears get hot, or maybe you find yourself breathing shallowly. Maybe you were breathing fine before, now you're breathing shallowly. So try to pay attention to those feelings, the way that it physically affects us. Why do we say stress is the #1 killer? It's not because it causes heart attacks, it's because it causes a million things, So it even causes us to, make poor choices on our water intake, on our food, on the sleep that we get or don't get. So really our energy compass is this, it's like a stress monitor. It's helping us say, like, okay, this is past this point. And then we can find ourselves, when we notice these things and we say, okay, well, this person is a huge source of my energy drain, or this activity, or this team, look at how you can, never all at once, but how you can start taking back from that. Can you pull back on the time you spend in this group? Is this somebody you actually need in your life? Maybe they're not. Maybe they're somebody who served their purpose at one point. Maybe you were friends for a very long time and now that's kind of, it's not the time anymore. Maybe they're not growing as you're growing. Or maybe you just need a break. Maybe you're just not going to hit them up for the usual, Friday night chat or whatever. Maybe you're a big fan of the sport you're playing, but the team is getting toxic. Look for another team. We kind of start to associate like this one bad experience with a whole, situation that we're a part of, or team or group or job. Sometimes it's just one bad coworker or boss. It's not always about, the dramatic changes. But when you feel like a dramatic change is called for, don't feel like you can't do it. I literally moved to another country. But it took me 11 months. I worked up to that decision. I made sure my ducks were in a row. I looked at my opportunities and what I wanted to do. I said all my farewells. And then I also planned to come back. So I wasn't saying, for a visit. I wasn't saying, okay, this is it. Goodbye, Pennsylvania. I've lived here for most of my life. I'll never see you again. It was more like, I'll see you later. And that's something else we need to remind ourselves of when we're trying to live spiritually and mindfully. It's never forever. Nothing in this life is forever, even if we go into it with all intents that it will be, like a marriage, like parenthood. We just cannot foresee what that future is going to bring. And it's not in our control. We're only ever in control of ourselves. So when we can mindfully live, stay present, make the choices that we want to make, listen to our energy compass, and see what's giving us the right vibes and what's not, and lean towards the right vibes, everything else just falls into place. It really does. And it gets easier if the first choice you have to make is not to text back that person that you know is about to go into a rant and you're not going to have any energy for it. Great, you did it. You didn't text them back. It's not always about doing. Sometimes it's about not doing. So look for those opportunities. Feel how they feel and take that to the next step. All right, so the last thing we're going to do together is write an affirmation. And I know some people rolled their eyes because not everybody likes affirmations because they're like, okay, sure, I'll just say this thing. But yeah, they work. They work. That's why we say that. They do. You just got to use them. I think that's where people are like, that's not going to work. Okay, well, with that attitude. Yeah. Yeah, have them on your wall. Put them on your water bottle. I'm sorry I talk about water all the time, but it's really, she's life, okay? We need her. So, I live a life that is blank. So you can go with one of the feelings we've talked about. You can just go with spiritual. You can go with full, content, confident, empowered, enlightened, bold, exciting. Or maybe you're really purposeful right now and you're like, I want to live a life that is an artist's life or a writer's life. Maybe you have something really specific. You can go as specific with this as you want. I live a life that is, and I feel blank. How does that make you feel? If you're living that life as a writer, you feel inspired, awake, excited. If you live a life that is content, do you feel aware, in control? Maybe you live a life that's vibrant, so you feel giddy. And this is a fun format to revisit over time. Maybe this works for you for a while, and sometimes affirmations start to feel stale or like we've gotten what we can from them. So see if you want to work it up. I live a life that is, bold. And, maybe not ready for bold right now, but maybe you'll be ready for bold next month. And you can use this in your meditations. Affirmations are great to start meditations because sometimes we just need to get our brains a little bit, not turned off, because I think that's a misconception in meditation that you're supposed to just be blank. It's more that you're so focused that focus starts to not matter. So you might start with repeating this affirmation a few times. Maybe you say it in your head. Maybe you write it several times. Some of us are really kinesthetic that way. Or maybe you're an artist, so you do it in like those nice fun bubble letters and watercolor them, or use some colored pencils. Does anybody want to share their affirmation?
Sorry, can you tell I was an annoying student in school?
You were my favorite kind.
I was just going to say, yeah, raise your hands, please. Thank you.
I live a life that is true and passionate, and I feel honored and proud and full of love.
Oh, I live a life that is truly passionate, and I feel honored and proud and full of love. That's beautiful.
And it's for the future, right?
Yep. It's the you know you are inside that you're going to be physically and presently all the time for the rest of your life.
Okay. Mine's not as good as Brian's, but I live a life that is satisfying in everything I dreamed of, and I feel happy and blessed.
That's beautiful,
Aw.
Heather.
I live a life that is...
We'll get there one day.
Wait, I want to repeat the whole thing one more time.
I live a life that is satisfying in everything I dreamed of, and I feel happy and blessed.
A life that is satisfying in everything you've dreamed of, and you feel happy and blessed. Yeah.
I live a life that is magical, and I feel aware and empowered.
Whoa. I live a life that is magical, and I feel aware and empowered. Yeah.
Live a life full of, contentedness, learning about lots of different things about life, science, art, and enjoying good, wholesome friendships and love, and I feel like peace, and makes me want to look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah. A life of seeking knowledge. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, we don't often talk. I think school kind of ruins us for learning. Like, we don't really want to learn after that because we're like, I don't have to. How's math going to help me? Math won't help me. Like, okay, maybe math won't help you, but maybe you'll learn about this mathematician who did something really cool. Yeah, English will. Critical thinking, oh my gosh. Yeah, English is the only class they need.
And reading.
Yeah. Yeah, reading's good.
That I teach.
Yeah.
That's the most important.
History, so we don't repeat mistakes.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And I think the thing, and feel free to use this with your children out there, but what makes kids not want to learn, I think, is the compartmentalization. Like, we say, this is science, okay, done. This is math, okay, done. But they're literally the same thing. And then we do the same with history and English, when you can't read a book without knowing when it was written and who wrote it and why and what was the time like and why was this woman not able to marry that other guy. And so we should just stop with the barriers and just bring it all together. Because I used to teach English and theater, and then I knew people who taught history, so we would talk about that and say, like, how can we, but the curriculums aren't even built for it. We had one moment where we could overlap in the whole year, so, yeah. All right, that's my teacher soapbox done. Anyone else have any affirmations they want to share?
I said I want to live a life that is peaceful and to feel present and content.
A life that is peaceful, and you feel present and content. Yeah. Yeah. And I like that you said peaceful, because sometimes we want to say a life that is not this. But when we say the word, like, I want to live a life that's not stressful, we're still saying the word stressful. So if we can turn that on its head and use that positive language.
I want a life that is unsaid.
A life that is unsaid.
Happy.
Yeah. Or even better, content.
Peaceful though. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah. I feel like I don't get enough of that in my life sometimes, but I want more of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the world kind of makes us feel like we should wait for the good things, But we don't want to be Aaron Burr. We want to be Alexander Hamilton, minus the dueling. Don't duel. But we don't want to wait for it. Does anybody have any questions about manifesting a spiritual life?
Do you have any mantras that you use right now?
Ooh, So when I travel, I'm on a 3-week trip right now. So when I travel, I will take my witch's ladder with me, and it's like my portable altar. So at the one end is a hagstone that I found at the beach, and that's like my goals. So that's where I'll say like, I'm a writer, I'm a teacher, I'm a guide. And so I'll start with that, and then I'll go through and I'll like connect with my ancestors, my teachers as a witch. I'll connect with my deities. So I try to just say the things that I now already am them, but when I started, I wasn't those things. I didn't consider myself a writer. I wrote like a poem a year. Like I was like, I'm a writer, but now I'm like, I'm a writer, I'm a teacher, I'm a guide. So sometimes just saying the things that you are the affirmations that you need to hear.
How do you find that motivation to keep going too?
The motivation to keep going. It's hard to say because it sort of sounds privileged, but I try to only make the things I have to keep going towards things I want to keep going towards. So even if like along that path, like I hate flights, I hate airplanes. I fly all the time. I fly probably like 12 hours a month, and I hate airplanes. I mean, they're just awful. They smell bad. With COVID, you're always thinking about germs now. So I hate that part. So I'm always anxious about flights. I'm anxious about forgetting something when I pack my stuff. There's just so much to worry about. So the way I kind of force myself to just go on with that and do it, even though I hate it, every second of it. I hate airports, I hate TSA, anyway. I won't think about it. I literally will just focus, and that honestly kind of becomes like a mantra, where I'll be I'll be in America soon, I'll be in the next destination soon, because I like food, I'll be eating this next. So I was I'll be eating Mexican food soon. That becomes my mantras that I'll use to just get the horrible over with. 'Cause it's long, you're in a plane for 10 hours uninterrupted. Yeah, and you never know who you're gonna be next to, if they wear deodorant. You just can't think about it. You can't dwell on it because you can't control it.
How often are you on long flights?
Not as long anymore, every 3 to 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that I'm within Europe, when I used to travel before from America, it's always 10 hours, 7 hours at minimum to England. But now it's 2 hours, 1.5 hours. So you start to not even notice it when you're used to. I used to live in the Middle East and it was 16 hours. 16 hours, that's horrible. That's no one should ever have to be out of their home for 16 hours, ever in history, much less in a plane.
Still have that?
What?
The Euro rail?
Yeah, you can take the train some places. Greece is a bit tricky because there's not all EU countries around it, so it only goes to the EU, so you have to kind of dip, duck, dive, and dodge around Moldova and, yeah. But it is good. Once you fly to Germany or somewhere central, yeah, it's $40 and 2 hours, and you're in an entirely different culture with different food, different language. Yeah. Yeah, and travel is a huge part of what a spiritual life leads you to, because I think it's a huge block for people. We always want to say, that's too expensive, I can't travel. But a lot of people will still travel, but they'll go somewhere like Disney World, and they'll spend $4,000 for the week. And they'll say, oh, I'd love to go to Greece, but I can't. It's so expensive. And I'm well, your flight's going to be about $800, and then your hotels will be $300. So you'll actually spend a third of what you spend at Disney World, and you can go for 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 10 days, however long you want. So I feel sometimes that's another block we put up is specifically travel, because not to get too esoteric on you here, but we probably like that anyway. A lot of times when people do drugs, right, they say it was a trip. I went on a trip. And the reason it's called that is because they've done, I want to say EEGs is what they did. It's some scan on your brain, and they realized that when people do psychedelics and when they travel to a new country, it literally stimulates the exact same places, because these are the parts of our brain that open. It's like childhood. If we scan a 6-year-old, they do the same thing when they go to a new city for the first time, or they go to a grocery store for the first time, because they're learning to acquire the understanding of parameter. Oh, in this country, they talk to you at a closer talking distance. Oh, I can't drink I have to drink bottled water here. I can drink the tap water here. These small things literally open our minds the way that a child opens, or the way drugs can open them. So skip the drugs and just go on a vacation. Go to another country. Canada is like mini Europe. It's so close. It really is. They use the same street signs and everything. Yeah.
I saw this thing that said, like, I was talking to my friend in the UK, and they only visit their dad once a year. And I asked how far away their dad was, and they said an hour. And I was like,
Yeah, they won't drive in the UK.
I drive an hour every week, like every day to work. I drive an hour to work and an hour back. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. When I went to the UK the last time, I did a road trip. I was with my mom. I had never driven in the UK, and I'm very nervous about the different sides of the street, but I was a little bit younger, and now I think I'd be ready, but at the time I was not. And me and her did like a girls trip, and we went to Cornwall to visit one of her friends, and she messaged another one of her friends that she had known. She's like, why don't you come down? Like, you're in the same county. She said, oh, it's just so far. And we Google Maps it. It was 35 minutes. And she didn't mean anything by it. Like, she was like, oh, no, like, love you. Like, she sent us a postcard. 35 minutes. 35. And gas is not that expensive. Like, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can drive 6 hours and still be in the same state. Like,
Yeah.
it blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, and then.
30 minutes is rough.
Exactly. It's only 7 hours from, like, Cornwall at the very bottom up to Scotland.
Yeah.
7 hours.
I would do it.
Yeah. That's like a single day. Like, that's like
a road trip.
North Carolina or something. Maybe not even. North Carolina is a little bit closer than that. Yeah. Yeah, that's Erie. We go to Erie.
Pittsburgh. You go to Pittsburgh. That's about 6.5 hours, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like not even, Pittsburgh's not all the way to the end either. Like, I think there's still like this much.
Yeah.
Scientifically speaking, this much.
No one cares about that.
Yeah. All right, any other questions? We'll let our live streamers go. Thank you. Were there any questions that came through on the chat? Nothing? Okay.
Some sharing though that you can check out later.
Oh, great. Okay. And I will try to put these worksheet questions somewhere in links and descriptions. And thank you for tuning in. If you can, if you liked this talk, I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram at Seeking Numina, follow me on Facebook at Seeking Numina, and listen to the Magic Kitchen podcast. We're always advertising when we do events like this, and I'd like to do more, and I'm hoping to do some more online this summer and fall.